also add about 10 years, more than 10 years, about 15 years later, I met him in a an Indian restaurant on the Upper East Side. And I had
that is some Norm Finkelstein meticulousness. Got to get, no, it's an Indian restaurant. All right. I like it.
I had very conflicted feelings about sitting with him at the table. And I'm going to tell you why. Maybe you won't be able to fully apprehend. When the whole issue of the appendix, the plagiarism charge, and everything else, when it arose, Professor Dershowitz started to go around saying that my late mother was a Nazi collaborator, a Kapo. Yeah. And he was kind of vague. Either she was a Kapo, a Nazi collaborator, or I believed she was. His wording was ambiguous there. Well, my mother was very protective of me. She was a Jewish mother, exponentially increased Jewish mother, very protective of me. However, there was one area where her personal integrity and dignity prevailed over her Jewish mother doting. And that was when it came to anything having to do with her experience during World War II. Without going into the gory details, she was a witness at the last major trial of Nazi concentration camp guards for Majdanek concentration camp. There was a trial in Düsseldorf in 1979, and she had to confront the guards. And I, unfortunately, got in the middle of it, and it got very ugly. So I knew that she would lose all respect for me if, in the face of that accusation, that she had collaborated with the people who had exterminated her family, that if I didn't do anything in the face of that accusation that was now posted on Professor Dershowitz's Harvard Law School website, if I didn't react, I knew her regard for me would precipitously plummet. I think that's redundant, would precipitously fall or plummet. And so I was very conflicted about sitting down with him in a restaurant table, and I'm being very literal here, and not throttling him. Because there was a part of me that felt it was a betrayal of my parents' martyrdom. But I did, and I'm not going to deny it, I did sit and talk to him. And at one point, I said to him, "Why did you say those things about my mother?" So he said to me, "Well, you wrote," he started, you wrote. I stopped him short. And I said, "Professor Dershowitz, don't go there. By the way, if you have any doubt about what I'm saying, I have the tape. It was taped, the conversation. So I'm retelling it, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to give it up." I said to him, "Professor Dershowitz, don't go there." I said to him, "I know your background, and I'm perfectly willing to acknowledge it's impressive. You grew up in Borough Park, a very modest, lower middle class Jewish neighborhood. I was born in the same neighborhood. We were born within 8 blocks of each other. You then went to Brooklyn College, a good but modest college. And then you went to Yale Law School, and you graduate #1 in your class. I said, I have no doubt that's an impressive achievement. I recognize that. Just as I recognize Chuck Schumer. He went to my high school. His father was an exterminator. He came from a very modest background, and through sheer brilliance, also being a complete crook, but the brilliance was there. No question about it. He was valedictorian in my high school, and so forth. And I said, I acknowledge. I said, now look, Professor Dershowitz, I read everything you've written in the last 40 years, and it's obviously worthless. It was interesting, his reaction. You know how he reacted? He just shrugged his shoulders like that, like, yeah, what can I do about it? He didn't deny it. I said, but you're clearly literate, sufficiently literate to know I never wrote anything like that. You know that was a complete lie. And you know how he responded? He said, after what you did to me on Democracy Now!, what did you expect me to do? In other words, he knew what he was saying was a lie, but it was tit for tat. You besmirched my name, I'll besmirch your name. It was an interesting. No, I don't find him a particularly interesting personality. I find him rather dull.
You have been watching free public content from Give Them an Argument. To access every single episode of the show, the main show on Monday nights, all of the streams, all of the debate breakdowns, all of the patron-exclusive postgames on Monday nights, all of the patron-exclusive bonus episodes every week, and much, much more, go to patreon.com/Ben Burgis. I cannot resist ending this with, don't be foolish.